I'm Alex Common, I'm back with part 2 of 2.4 adaptations to mental exercise. Starting with the neuromuscular system. Slow oxidative fibres will... your slow oxidative fibres before you do any exercise, they'll be quite small. And then after exercise for a period of 6 months, so you'll do lots of aerobic training like endurance training, resistance training, stuff like that. They'll just increase in size, which means they'll be able to get more oxygen in them, so they'll be able to last longer and give you the stuff you need to last longer in an event. Whereas aerobic fitness doesn't affect your fast glycolytic fibres. They won't increase in size at all. They'll just stay the same. So you won't be able to access these as well during an aerobic event. But whereas in anaerobic exercise, your slow oxidative fibres will get smaller, because they won't be getting as much oxygen, whereas your fast glycolytic fibres will be quite big, but that will increase in size quite significantly, so they can get more oxygen and give you the power needed, because they give a lot stronger contractions, and they'll give you the power needed to get the speed you need to win your 100-meter race. So my next bit is a myoglobin. So myoglobin is stored in the muscles and provides the muscles with oxygen. And so when you train for a long time, your myoglobin stores increase, which will increase the amount of oxygen you have in your muscles. So you'll be better suited to endurance running, so a marathon. So once you have more myoglobin stored, you have more oxygen, so you'll be able to go for a lot longer before you run out of oxygen, and then you won't hit the wall as quickly, or you won't fatigue as quickly. Mitochondria. An increase of mitochondria in muscle cells will increase the amount of ATP that's able to be produced, and that will increase the quantity of enzymes involved in respiration. So that means you'll be able to produce more ATP, and then ATP is the stuff that gives you energy. So it's a lot better so it's good for anaerobic and aerobic. So anaerobic, you need the quick energy, so you can sprint for the whole 100 meters and go as fast as you can for as long as you can. But it's also good for your aerobic, because you need lots of energy to keep going for 26 miles without hitting the wall. And so for tendon strength, so your tendons will adapt and get stronger over long-term exercise, which means that because as they're stronger, they'll be able to generate more power, so you'll be able to go a lot quicker in the 100-meter sprint. And if you needed to sprint the last 20 meters of the marathon, then they'll give you the power there. But they also will allow you to have less chance of an injury, as they'll get stronger and more stable. So it's a lot harder to pull one of them or tear one of them or just do a bad injury, as they're more stronger, more stable, and just a lot better. So for nerve transmission, so to get quicker reflexes, quicker impulses around the body, you will recruit more fast glycolytic motor units and improve coordination of the fast glycolytic motor units, and these will all increase the rate of response in the central nervous system, which means there'll be more responsive proprioceptors such as muscle spindles and Golgi tendon organs, which means they'll be able to detect a change in movement a lot better, and you won't get as injured as quickly, and you'll be able to react to your legs will be able to react if they're getting too stretched, or if you're about to pull something, it will react a lot quicker and then close down again, so you won't get injured. So that's a lot better. And then the wing rate anaerobic test graph is here, and this graph shows the result of the Wingate test. The blue line is post-exercise and the red line is pre-exercise. So as you can see, after an athlete, for example a 100-meter sprinter, has done exercise for a long period of time, they will have a much higher peak power output, so they'll be able to go a lot faster and a lot higher. But then they'll have a much bigger drop-off, as they'll only need to run for 10 seconds. They won't need to have the energy to keep going for the whole time, whereas a marathon runner might not go as high, but then they'll be able to go for a lot longer at a stable rate, and then they'll drop off, but not as quickly as a 100-meter sprinter would. Next bit is energy systems. So in this you can see the lactate threshold on the left and heart rate data on the right. So as you can see in this, for example, marathon runner who's trained for a while, they'll have a much lower heart rate and a much lower lactate threshold. So you can see the light blue line below, the two lines that are below the line above, they're both post-exercise. So this having a lower lactate threshold is because you'll have more tolerance to lactic acid. So you'll have it in your body and you'll be able to become more used to it and get rid of it quicker. And also you'll begin to not get used to the effects of it, so it won't be as bad until you get massively high amounts of lactic acid in you. You won't get affected as quickly. So you'll be able to go for a lot longer before you start to really feel pain in your body. So increased aerobic and anaerobic enzymes. So because you'll have more, so after 6 months of exercise you'll have more mitochondria, which means they'll create more ATP. So you'll have more enzymes in your body, so anaerobic and aerobic enzymes, which means that if you have more enzymes, then you'll be able to create more ATP. So in a 100-meter sprint, you'll have much more energy, much more ATP to give you the boost you need to run for the 100-meter sprint, and also for a marathon runner, so you'll have much more ATP during the whole 26 miles. So you'll have much more enzymes to create the ATP for you to run the whole 26 miles. And it'll just make it a lot easier. So glycogen sparing is when your body switches from using glycogen and turns to burning fats instead. So when you're doing a marathon, for example, because this is when it's most likely to happen, you'll mainly use glycogen, but then as a body's last resort to get you enough energy, you'll start burning fats instead. So burning fats and also they'll do it as a last resort, so you can spare glycogen. So obviously that's called glycogen sparing, when you use fats instead, so you can spare glycogen for when you need it again. So if you did a 100-meter sprint, maybe 15 miles in, you'll start to burn fats instead. And then 20 miles in, when you feel a lot more fatigued and you've used up most of your fats as a store, which is fats are a lot harder to break down, hence why they're a last resort, and it takes a lot longer to break them down but they will give you a lot, loads of energy, so loads of ATP. They'll produce loads of ATP, so you have lots of energy. So it's a good thing. However, it's not so good because it's a lot harder, hence why we use it as our last resort. And also it's good because it can spare glycogen for post the event, so you'll be able to recover a lot quicker. And here are the skeletal adaptations. So these are all part of the skeletal adaptations. So when you exercise, or just when you have it, you could get osteoporosis, osteoporosis is when your bones become really fragile and brittle, so it'll become a lot easier to break it, or it'll become a lot easier just for them to get injured. Then once you've exercised for 6 months, you'll have a reduced risk of this osteoporosis, because you'll have strengthening of bone tissue density. So the bone tissue density will get a lot thicker, so it'll be a lot harder and a lot stronger, so it won't be as easy to break it, snap it, and cause any injury to that. And you'll also have more calcium being deposited into your bones, so that will also increase the strength and how dense it is, and that will also help with it becoming stronger, becoming less brittle, less fragile, so you'll just have a much less chance of injury. And also there's a reduced risk of osteoarthritis, osteoarthritis is degeneration of joint cartilage and the underlying bone, and that can cause massive amounts of pain and make them a lot weaker, so it's a lot easier to break the bones. But when you exercise, you'll have a greater synovial fluid production, which means that the synovial fluid in between the joints will be able to make a bigger gap, so the bones aren't rubbing against each other, and it won't won't feel horrible or anything like that. So that's a massive gain if you play a sport where you have to use your joints a lot. Having an increased synovial fluid production. So for a 100-meter sprint in your knees, you won't be able to run as fast, or you might not even be able to run at all, because the bones will be rubbing against each other. But then if you have a greater synovial fluid production, that gap between the two bones will be a bit bigger, so it won't be rubbing against each other and feel awful, so you'll be able to go a lot quicker and a lot better over time. And also you can have greater range of motion, so if you exercise a lot, your bones will get used to your flexibility will be a lot better, so you'll be able to bend lower or reach further and all this, so everything in your body will just be a lot better, and there'll be a reduced risk of injury. As we said before, your bones will get a lot stronger over the course of 6 months of exercise, let's say, and your bones will get stronger, you'll have greater synovial fluid production, so there'll be a much less chance of injury. And functional mobility and independence, so as we get older, say in our 70s or 80s, we won't be doing as much walking about and stuff, so if you sit down for 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, it'll make you function a lot worse, so you won't be able to walk as good, or you'll be a lot less independent. Whereas if you just, for your whole life, you just try to do as much moving as possible and movement around as possible, when you get into later life, it'll be a lot easier for you as an older person to move around and just do all the stuff that you want to, and not have to just sit down in a mobility scooter the whole time. So that's my 2.4 fatigue recovery. Thank you for watching.